am Mizore. I was a normal villager, just doing my duties as usual. That is, until the fateful day when I was struck by lightning. Ever since that incident, my fate had been sealed.
Hi. I'm Ludmila Bellerose. I don't really care what pronouns you use for me. And I voice Mizore. Well, as Ludmila Bellerose, I am a Vtuber. I specialize in mostly tactical RPGs, just regular RPGs, turn-based RPGs. I'm basically the RPG head. I'm known for doing a lot of Fire Emblem content and a little bit of Final Fantasy and like other Square Enix titles on the side, but that's what I love doing. I play those off stream whenever I can, and well, I mean, might as well make something I really like into content. I do ASMR on my YouTube channel around 3 to 4 times a week, depending on my energy levels, and yeah, I love being a content creator. My life revolves around being a content creator and doing the things I really want to do. I grew up doing a lot of stage theater and performative stuff, so voice acting and VTubing and being a content creator felt like a natural next step after I quit doing the stage theater stuff. Stage theater is a relatively toxic place, and while content creation has its own toxicity, it's different. It feels a lot less personal than stage theater does. So I put all of my acting abilities and all of my vocal strength towards, doing things like voicing characters, like Mizore. When it comes to playing characters, I have always really wanted to play a villainous character. I usually get casted as side characters or characters that are on a redemption arc. Nothing that allows me to use my lower vocal register and really be that evil person. I think being evil and playing into an evil role is really fun. And the times where in my ASMR, for example, I allow myself to be that evil character, it's so fun to do. I don't know, something about acting like a bad person. It's just fun. It sounds really weird to say it like that, but I mean, I don't know. So I learned about Mob Talker in a way that you wouldn't really necessarily expect. I only really got into Minecraft this year, because me and one of my gen mates in my company really started playing it. But I met the creator of Mob Talker at Offkai Expo, which is a convention for VTubers. And I'm a VTuber, and I was doing one of those virtual meet and greets on a TV laptop screen, and he was there. And we had a nice conversation, and he followed me on my socials, and I followed him back, and I saw him put out a call for Suzanne the Skeleton and Mizore the Witch. And I tried out for both of them, and I got Mizore, and it's just been doing it since then. When playing Mizore, I definitely really got to know her. I don't really get to know the characters I'm playing whenever I do my ASMR. It's typically very one note. There's not a lot of character depth, and it doesn't really go anything beyond I'm a yandere, ha 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 ha, stab 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 stab. But with Mizore, there was obviously the level of she didn't want to be a witch. She is kind of in this predicament where she can't be who she once was, and she has to deal with how it is. And then everything about her sisters and other things, and she very clearly wants to go back to who she was before. And despite the last handful of lines I recorded in her story being relatively sad, I think that it wraps up in a neat little bow. I had really hard time tapping into that anger and bitterness with her, because I view her kind of as she's constantly stressed. She can't figure out how to do these potions, and the main character comes in and they help them figure out how to do these potions and all these other different things. And I feel I'd really like to explore her depths of insecurity and the fact that she couldn't do all of this necessarily without the player character. I think that would be really fun. I don't know. But I really hope to, in the future, go into more about just like her family and maybe do some stuff with her family. Who knows? I got into voice acting because, you know, as I said earlier, I did a bunch of stage theater. I took like professional voice acting classes, which is kind of crazy. Like I learned the obvious, like tongue twisters, red leather, yellow leather, toy boat. I'm not very good at them, but I learned how to do all of those things, and learn how to like properly project from my chest. I don't really use that projection when it comes to voice acting, but I definitely use a lot of the breathing that I did in that class to help, you know, regulate how I'm using my voice, how I'm treating my voice, the amount of breaths I need to take, just like things like that. The switch from stage theater to voice acting was hard. I'm still kind of going through it because it's a lot less projection and more like genuine emotion and different voices you can do with just like your voice. It's been fun, and being able to obviously do Mizore and then continue on with like doing my ASMR has definitely strengthened my acting chops. For me, like I said above, one of my biggest challenges with voice acting is figuring out the proper volume. As a streamer, I'm constantly super loud. I'm constantly yelling things. And as a voice actor, I really have to settle on a tone, on a volume, on a level of how I'm speaking that is acceptable. Because I still live with people, and me being super loud is not beneficial to my living situation, despite it being like family. I always say you aren't loud, or you're not that loud until like your mother, when you're at the grocery store, tells you to shut up because you're like talking about how much you like white bread in the bread aisle, because your voice is just so naturally loud. Figuring out the volume for the microphone, still a running theme. I grew up watching a lot of cartoons and playing a lot of video games that have now like since developed voice acting. Like I grew up on a lot of the Fire Emblem games, and as time went on, those games got voice acting. And I remember very early on, when Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Fates were like the thing, a running theme across both of those games was just like Matt Mercer needed to be in those games. And in a lot of games of that era on like the 3DS, Matt Mercer was in a very good chunk of them. And I remember being able to like immediately identify his voice. I'm like, that's Matt Mercer. And I want to be able to do that at some point where people be like, that's Ludmila. It's like immediately be able to point out the voice because of just how recognizable it is. And like that I'm everywhere. Cause like I loved the 3DS era of gaming. Like I think back on that so fondly, and I'm so sad that people like, you know, talk about the 3DS less and they closed the eShop and stuff. Like I mourned that day. But yeah, Matt Mercer. It's just something about Matt Mercer. I don't know. Some genuine advice I have for people is if you're having a hard time making a portfolio, then make content that links into voice acting. Comic dubs, ASMR, just like things like that, where like your voice and your acting and all these other different things can then be linked together with these auditions you're going to be doing. I know streaming for me and my ASMR and all that stuff for me is a huge reason as to why I got this role, is that I have this big backlog of voice acting stuff. And yes, a lot of it is I am playing a comfort uwu girlfriend, or I am playing a yandere uwu girlfriend, or maybe I'm just stabbing you. I don't know. But I have this massive backlog of stuff that people can go and look through. Also, don't limit yourself to only paid stuff. Like, I definitely think that you need to do your own research and determine if this is a role that you can actually commit your time to if it's unpaid. Like, if it is a super strict, like, you need 700 lines due by in like a couple of weeks, and then you can't do that because you're like working a job and other things, you're in school, just like, you really have to determine, do I have time for this if it's unpaid, and am I okay with putting in X amount of effort? See if the person that you're auditioning for is flexible with their timing, because a lot of voice actors like me are in school and have a job. So go off of there. Also, use Casting Call. Still do your research though. I'm not one for like quoting things or like knowing entire books or sayings off the top of my head. Honestly, the best I can say is just go out and do stuff. Don't just like sit and do nothing. Go out and do stuff. Being able to do stuff is so important. Like, if you want to go get that girl, go get that girl. If you want to go bake cookies for the first time, go bake cookies for the first time. There's so much you can experience in this world. Just go out and do it, man. Just go experience it. Go touch the grass. Go pet a cat. Go do those things. Become the streamer you always thought you wanted to be. Become the voice actor you've always wanted to be. Play Mob Talker. There's a lot of things you can do with your time. Do it. Oh my gosh. I get to plug my stuff. Okay. You can find me as at Ludmila VT on a lot of platforms, and if you can't, then it's at Ludmila VT _, because some places have at Ludmila VT taken away because another account that was made in 2009 has at Ludmila VT without the underscore, and I can't get that account removed. So, on Twitter, I'm at Ludmila VT _ on Twitch, I'm just at Ludmila VT. On YouTube, I am at Ludmila VT. I am all over the place. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Like, I am everywhere. Follow me everywhere. I stream like 5 to 6 days a week. I have a problem. I upload almost every day. Come watch my stuff. Twitch is being evil. Please help soothe me if you like my voice. Thank you again so much for this opportunity, and I hope to be able to voice Mizore in the future.